A black hotel employee's unexpected call in Dutch sparks a revolution. In the bustling lobby of the Grand Plaza Hotel, where polished marble floors reflected the opulence of its guests, an ordinary day took an extraordinary turn. Zoe Johnson, a diligent cleaning staff member with dreams far beyond her current role, found herself at the center of an event that would change not only her life but also expose systemic discrimination within one of the most prestigious hotel chains in America. As she scrubbed the floor on a seemingly routine afternoon, her cell phone rang, a call from the university she had been tirelessly trying to secure a scholarship for her master's program in linguistics. Zoe hesitated momentarily before answering, aware of rule number 1 from Manager Richards: no phones during working hours, especially for cleaning staff. However, recognizing the caller as the University of Amsterdam, she couldn't resist. After 6 unsuccessful attempts over months, this could be her breakthrough, an opportunity too significant to ignore. Whispering softly under her breath, she stepped behind an ornate marble column, shielding herself from view while still maintaining discretion. It was here, hidden amidst luxury and privilege, that her world transformed in mere seconds. "Zoe Johnson," she answered quietly, hoping not to attract attention from the well-heeled guests passing by. On the other end, Professor Van Ton spoke in perfect Dutch, his voice clear and professional. Without missing a beat, Zoe responded fluently in kind, her impeccable pronunciation flowing naturally as they discussed details of her application for the international program. As their conversation deepened, Zoe explained her concern about the letter of motivation she feared hadn't arrived on time. But it wasn't until she noticed the sudden silence around her that reality struck. Looking up, she saw Richard Coleman, the billionaire owner of the hotel chain, standing just a few feet away, watching her with undisguised surprise. Next to him stood Manager Richards, her eyes wide with fury. Swallowing hard, Zoe quickly ended the call with a polite farewell in Dutch and hung up. The manager's sharp command cut through the air like a blade: "Johnson, in my office now." The walk to the small administrative office in the basement felt endless. Each step echoed against the cold walls, amplifying Zoe's anxiety. She could feel the stares of her colleagues, some sympathetic, others gleeful at what seemed to be her impending downfall. At 29, Zoe was the only black woman in the cleaning department with a college degree, a fact that Manager Richards made a point of constantly forgetting. This moment encapsulated everything wrong with the system Zoe had endured for years. Her journey wasn't merely about personal advancement, it symbolized the struggles faced by countless qualified individuals who remained invisible due to ingrained biases. Entering the cramped office, Zoe braced herself for the worst. "You know the rules, Johnson," Richards began, her tone accusatory. "No phones during working hours, especially in common areas." When Zoe instinctively corrected her language identification from French to Dutch, Richards snapped back, dismissing the distinction entirely. "I don't care if it was Martian," she exclaimed. What mattered to her was that Mr. Coleman had witnessed a cleaning lady ignoring her duties to talk on the phone in the lobby. The injustice burned inside Zoe like acid. White receptionists regularly took personal calls without repercussions, yet here she was being reprimanded simply for speaking another language, a skill she had honed through years of dedication. Richard's decision to assign Zoe to the convention center bathrooms for the next 3 months felt like a calculated move rather than a genuine punishment. Double cleaning shifts after corporate events, with no overtime pay, were Richard's classic method of penalizing those who dared cross the line. Yet, even as Zoe absorbed the weight of this unfairness, something deeper stirred within her. This incident wasn't isolated, it was part of a pattern, one she had seen play out repeatedly throughout her 6 years at the hotel. That night, alone in her small apartment shared with 2 fellow nurses, Zoe cried silently, staring at her framed linguistics degree and international certificates hanging on the peeling wall. 6 years of scrubbing hotel rooms, saving for a master's degree, sending out resumes that never received responses despite stellar qualifications, all came crashing down on her. The next morning, determined to maintain professionalism despite the injustice, Zoe arrived early for her shift. Just as she settled into her tasks, the phone at the front desk rang. Jennifer, the head receptionist, called out, "Human Resources wants you right away." For someone accustomed to operating in the shadows, ascending to the top floor adjacent to the executive offices felt surreal. Uncharted territory for cleaning staff, indeed. In the elevator, surrounded by executives discussing million-dollar mergers, Zoe felt invisible once again, a recurring theme in her life. When she entered the HR director's office, the atmosphere shifted unexpectedly. "Please have a seat," the director instructed, gesturing toward a chair. Zoe sat stiffly, preparing herself for termination. Instead, she learned that Mr. Coleman himself wished to meet with her. Walking into the billionaire's expansive office, larger than her entire apartment, Zoe encountered Richard Coleman, a man renowned in the business world for transforming bankrupt hotels into luxurious properties. His direct question caught her off guard. "Dutch, French, Italian, and Mandarin, correct?" Consulting an open folder on his desk, Coleman confirmed her honors degree in linguistics from Georgetown, fluency in 6 languages, 2 Asian, and 6 years spent cleaning his hotel bathrooms. Zoe blinked, confused. How did he obtain her resume? Coleman revealed he had requested it immediately upon hearing her speak Dutch the previous day. This revelation marked the beginning of Zoe's transformation, and the unraveling of a deeply entrenched system of discrimination. Coleman wasted no time getting to the heart of the matter. He bluntly asked why someone with her credentials was stuck in housekeeping instead of contributing to international translations or similar high-profile roles. Zoe recounted her futile efforts to advance internally, citing 47 ignored resumes sent to the International Relations Department and 12 denied transfer requests blocked by Manager Richards and Mr. Whitmore, the Director of Operations. Coleman noted these names carefully, his expression darkening. Curious, given Whitmore's frequent complaints about the lack of multilingual staff for international clients, particularly during Asian conferences. What Zoe didn't realize was that this encounter wasn't coincidental. 3 months prior, Coleman had hired a consulting firm to investigate alarming turnover rates among qualified non-white employees across his East Coast hotels. The findings hinted at troubling patterns, but nothing concrete enough to act decisively, until now. Observing Zoe's fluency and poise firsthand provided the catalyst he needed. With a major trade conference featuring Dutch and Chinese business executives looming, Coleman saw an opportunity. He offered Zoe a temporary position as the International Relations Coordinator for the event, with a staggering salary of $5,000 per week starting immediately. Stunned, Zoe nearly dropped her purse. It was more than she earned in 3 months combined. Coleman's reasoning was straightforward yet profound. He wanted someone fluent in both Dutch and Mandarin, capable of understanding cultural nuances critical to facilitating connections between executives. More importantly, he suspected something fundamentally wrong within his company, a suspicion Zoe's case only reinforced. Armed with a new badge granting full access to hotel systems, Zoe returned to finalize paperwork. En route, she encountered Manager Richards, whose shock at seeing Zoe on the executive floor was palpable. Maintaining composure, Zoe informed her former supervisor of her new title, International Relations Coordinator, appointed directly by Mr. Coleman. Richards stammered excuses, visibly pale, as Zoe calmly listed her qualifications, including her Georgetown degree and fluency in multiple languages. Adding insult to injury, Zoe pointed out that her resume had been in the hotel's files for 6 years, alongside her 12 transfer requests. In the HR department, Zoe found an unexpected ally in Zoe Williams, a newly hired recruitment analyst. Williams confessed she had reviewed Zoe's file 3 months earlier and couldn't understand why such a qualified individual remained in housekeeping. Together, they began arranging Zoe's transfer, solidifying plans that would soon reshape the organization's structure. Meanwhile, preparing for the upcoming conference in the VIP room, Zoe discovered disturbing errors in the event documents. Translations in Mandarin contained inappropriate phrases likely to cause serious diplomatic misunderstandings with Chinese executives. Swiftly correcting these mistakes, Zoe redesigned the welcome materials, ensuring accuracy and cultural sensitivity. Observing her work silently from the doorway, Coleman approached with curiosity. "How did you know they were wrong?" he asked. Zoe explained that the original translation used terms considered offensive in formal corporate Chinese. Whoever had prepared them understood basic Mandarin but lacked nuanced knowledge of cultural subtleties. Coleman nodded thoughtfully, recalling Whitmore's assurance that the hotel employed the best translators, albeit at exorbitant costs. Zoe highlighted a critical error in the translation of a partnership proposal, pointing out that Whitmore had hired someone without verifying credentials. Digging deeper, she uncovered evidence linking inflated translation contracts to Whitmore's niece, who possessed neither experience nor expertise in formal Mandarin but charged premium rates nonetheless. As the conference commenced, Zoe navigated effortlessly among international business executives, switching seamlessly between Dutch and Mandarin. Her ability to mediate conversations and facilitate connections impressed everyone present, generating preliminary contracts that exceeded expectations. During a break, Whitmore, the same man who had ignored her for 6 years, approached with feigned admiration. "Miss Johnson, I'm impressed," he said, attempting to mask his discomfort. "Richards clearly misjudged your potential." Zoe seized the moment, reminding him how her resume listing fluency in Mandarin had been overlooked, particularly when the hotel spent $50,000 on inadequate translation services for the very conference unfolding before them. Whitmore faltered, realizing Zoe held irrefutable proof of his negligence. On the third day of the conference, a pivotal moment occurred. A Dutch businessman recognized Zoe, recalling her groundbreaking article on linguistic variation in international business published in the Journal of Applied Linguistics. Excitedly, he cited her work at 2 conferences, drawing colleagues over to meet her. Watching from afar, Coleman noticed Whitmore growing increasingly uneasy. Unbeknownst to Whitmore, Zoe was meticulously documenting not just isolated errors but an entire web of institutionalized discrimination and corruption that suppressed talents like hers while channeling inflated contracts to unqualified individuals connected to management. By the 4th day, tensions reached a boiling point. Whitmore escorted his nervous niece, carrying a folder marked Final Translation Master Contract, to the executive elevators. A quick glance confirmed Zoe's suspicions. The same critical errors persisted in the text. Realizing Mr. Coleman needed to see this, Zoe hurried to his office. Entering unannounced, she presented screenshots on her phone showing Whitmore replacing her correct translations with flawed versions done by his niece. Furthermore, she revealed records of inflated payments to the niece's company, thrice above market rate, spanning several years. Qualified candidates like Zoe had been systematically rejected, perpetuating a cycle of exclusion and exploitation. As they discussed these revelations, Zoe from HR rushed in, handing Coleman additional damning evidence. Hiring records for the past 5 years exposed a consistent pattern of rejecting qualified non-white candidates, particularly women. Flipping through the documents, Coleman's face hardened with each page. The outside investigation had hinted at issues, but this level of systematic discrimination was staggering. At that moment, Whitmore entered the office without knocking, interrupting the conversation. Attempting to deflect blame, he claimed inconsistencies in the translations must have resulted from Zoe's mistakes. The ensuing silence was icy. Coleman closed the door slowly, confronting Whitmore with undeniable facts, payment records for incompetent translations while qualified employees cleaned bathrooms. Cornered, Whitmore denied responsibility, claiming ignorance. Coleman interjected, revealing that Ashley Whitmore, the niece entrusted with crucial translation tasks, had 0 experience in formal Mandarin and possessed fake certifications. Zoe placed a printed email on the table, confirming with Peking University that Ashley had never been certified. Whitmore shot Zoe a look of pure hatred, labeling her a nobody presuming to challenge authority. Calmly, Zoe corrected him, asserting her Ph.D. in applied linguistics from Georgetown and 6 international publications, all documented in HR files Whitmore had willfully ignored. Decisively, Coleman announced an emergency board meeting in 30 minutes, demanding Whitmore's resignation letter on his desk by then. 2 hours later, the executive auditorium buzzed with anticipation. All managers, supervisors, and directors had been summoned urgently. In the front row, Dutch and Chinese business executives awaited curiously alongside confused department heads, including Richards, the cleaning manager. Taking the stage beside Zoe, Coleman delivered a grave announcement: a systematic scheme of discrimination and nepotism had cost the company millions. Behind him, a presentation displayed comparative charts of employee qualifications versus positions, hiring and rejection statistics by race and gender, and overpriced contracts linked to managers' family members. Highlighting Zoe's contributions, Coleman praised her for saving the company from a diplomatic and financial disaster by correcting flawed translations that risked millions in contractual misunderstandings. The Asian businessman nodded in recognition, some applauding quietly. Declaring immediate actions, Coleman announced Thomas Whitmore's termination for cause and Sarah Richards' suspension pending further investigation. Effective immediately, a complete audit of all hiring and promotions over the past 5 years would commence. The room fell silent, shocked. Richards stared at the floor, pale and defeated. Finally, Coleman smiled slightly, announcing Dr. Zoe Johnson as the new Global Director of Internal Communications, overseeing all multilingual operations. The auditorium erupted in applause, particularly from the cleaning crew seated in the back, tears streaming down their faces. As Zoe left the stage, she noticed Whitmore being escorted out by security guards, his face contorted in impotent rage. Passing Zoe, he muttered, "You won't last a month." Serenely, Zoe smiled, knowing the recording device in her pocket captured every threat and racist comment Whitmore had whispered recently in desperate attempts to cover up his scheme. That night, in her new office overlooking the city, Zoe allowed herself to cry, not tears of sadness but of catharsis. 6 years of cleaning hallways while her potential was denied, 6 years of hearing excuses like your resume must have gotten lost or maybe you're not a good cultural fit. Picking up the phone, she called her mother, who had sacrificed everything to fund her education. "I did it, Mom," she said simply, her voice breaking. What no one at the Grand Plaza Hotel could have predicted that day was that the real transformation was just beginning. Over the following months, the ripple effects of Zoe's promotion reverberated throughout the American hotel industry. What started as a personal victory evolved into a silent revolution challenging entrenched practices. Zoe's office on the 32nd floor now commanded views of all Manhattan, adorned with a discreet plaque reading Dr. Zoe Johnson, Vice President of Diversity and International Relations. Her monthly salary surpassed 5 figures, yet true power lay beyond titles or compensation. Leading a restructuring committee, Zoe spearheaded initiatives identifying and promoting overlooked talent across the hotel chain. Presenting findings to Richard Coleman and the board of directors, she highlighted the pilot program's success: 147 employees with skills in languages, finance, management, and technology identified and elevated from roles beneath their capabilities. 83% hailed from minority groups, underscoring the untapped potential buried under service uniforms. Financial impacts proved equally compelling. Outsourcing translation costs plummeted by 78%, international customer satisfaction surged by 42%, and diversity ratings soared to industry-leading levels. By investing in existing employees, the company achieved remarkable efficiencies while fostering inclusivity. Across the country, Sarah Richards watched the conference broadcast from a modest California hotel. Following an extensive investigation, she avoided termination by accepting demotion and relocation. Managing laundry at a second-rate property served as daily humiliation for someone who once dismissed talent based on prejudice. Meanwhile, Thomas Whitmore faded into obscurity, unable to secure employment in luxury hotels post-dismissal. Allegations of systematic discrimination and embezzlement tarnished his reputation permanently. His niece Ashley returned inflated payments, completed a professional ethics program, and ironically pursued Mandarin studies via a scholarship funded by the Coleman Foundation for Inclusive Language Education. Concluding her presentation, Zoe addressed the camera broadcasting to all properties in the chain. Sharing something personal, she paused, letting silence fill the room. Recalling her mother's sacrifices as a hotel maid with a college degree, she emphasized values instilled since childhood: worth independent of external validation. Across the room, newly promoted executives wiped away tears discreetly. True organizational strength lies not in profits alone but in unleashed potential. For decades, industries like hospitality buried extraordinary talent under service uniforms, assuming people of certain colors, accents, or backgrounds suited only invisible roles. Standing, Coleman led applause followed by the entire room and hundreds of remote viewers. Later that day, Zoe received an envelope containing a postcard from Amsterdam and a letter offering her a visiting professorship at a University of Applied Linguistics. Professor Vanton, instrumental in initiating Zoe's meteoric rise, followed her journey closely. Reflecting wryly, Zoe acknowledged Richards indirectly contributed to her success. Had she issued a mere warning instead of punishment, Zoe might still clean rooms, her degree gathering dust. Launching a scholarship fund financed partly by her new salary, Zoe ensured opportunities extended beyond herself. The first beneficiary? Her former cleaning colleague's daughter, aspiring to study hotel management. What began as a simple phone call in Dutch sent ripples extending far beyond that hotel, impacting the broader industry profoundly. Talent exists everywhere, lacking our opportunities and recognition. True justice isn't merely punishing discriminators but rebuilding systems so prejudice finds no refuge. Zoe's sweetest revenge wasn't witnessing antagonists fall but observing hundreds like her finally rise. If this story resonates, leave comments reflecting on how silent prejudice stifles extraordinary talent. Subscribe for inspiring tales of individuals turning injustice into platforms for meaningful change. After all, Zoe teaches us greatness isn't overcoming barriers alone but ensuring doors remain open for everyone coming after.